really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the weekly show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more all about the world of rugby. My name is David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, easy enough to find on all your socials, especially Blue Sky these days, and you can always just drop an email to thescrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, as you have no doubt deduced, this is not your usual weekly episode, but is in fact yet another bonus episode. And why? Well, because today is Christmas, and there's never any rugby on Christmas. I thought, for listeners like myself who missed the game on the 25th, thought it might be nice to provide just a little bit of content to tide you over until the new year. To aid me in this little bit of surprise Christmas cheer is, of course, the one and only one of my favorite people on earth, in fact. It's John Anderson. John, my friend, happy Christmas. How the hell are you?
Happy Christmas, David. Yes, I'm very well, thank you, mate. Ticking on very nicely. How's yourself?
Oh, just fine. I will be sad on Boxing Day because my family pick up and go down to Texas and leave me here. But we do get today. So recently, I had another little chat with Hugh and Harley from multiple podcasts. I asked them if there was a rugby match on Christmas, would you watch? They and everyone else I've asked gave an emphatic no. I've learned that rugby on Christmas will never be a thing. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I know. Like, obviously, over your side of the pond, sports on Christmas Day is a thing.
Oh yeah,
big thing. But
we've got 2 NFL games and 5 NBA games today.
Yeah, the 2 NFL games. I'm less concerned about them after my dabble with the NFL the other day, which we may come on to during the pod, I'm sure. But it's just not. It's not really. So Boxing Day has always been a thing for sports in the UK. It's almost like we've kind of reserved the 25th for all the fighting with your family, and then we've went Boxing Day. That's when I'm going to go to the pub and watch some football or watch some rugby or watch anything. Boxing, literally boxing. We might go and watch that. If it's
anything, even a Dragons game.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Well, I mean,
okay, let's not go crazy. Yeah.
I might be more inclined to watch a repeat of the Doctor Who special than maybe watch the Dragons. To be fair, but
I always like to say in a game that technically somebody has to win, but then whenever I say that, they end up getting a draw anyway, and I'm like,
Yeah. It's not. I'll not be tuning into that one. Let's put it that way.
Well, my friends, this is just that extra bit of, that little tidbit, that late stocking stuffer for those of you starved for rugby like myself. In that spirit, John, we've got a little update, a little recap of where the various competitions we follow here on the Scrum of the Earth are at the moment. It's been a great year. All the side conversations we've been having with fantastic guests like Rugby Julia, who joined us last Sunday to talk about women's rugby. Like, we've just had all these people in. I've asked all of them, holiday traditions. What do you have any holiday traditions? There's something every year you're like, okay, Christmas is on its way. I can't wait to
I mean, I actually prepped for this, believe it or not, and my holiday tradition is winning the 1872.
Merry Christmas.
Brutal. I know. Sorry. We'll come on to that in due course, I'm sure. Do you know? It's been. I don't actually have that many traditions as such. I just kind of go with the flow generally. Usually Christmas Eve, I'm out at the local pub just across the road from me. So I head over there for a couple of.
Oh, you have a pub like within staggering distance of your front door? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I would say approximately 4 minutes from the house at a stagger.
That's good.
So
Oh, that's
it's
really
pretty
good.
close. Yeah, so it's decent wee pub as well, actually. It has a mighty good pint of tenants, which is always good for a Scotsman. But
Well, maybe when you finally send me your heist T-shirt, you can wrap tenants in it, and I'll get a taste of both.
yeah, then I'll get banned from the US forevermore.
It does seem like it's not allowed here.
FDA is not happy with you, Anderson.
This is a one stone too far. By the way, it's been an amazing year. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you because you had not the best year. You've been through a lot this year, and including a surgery that took up a ton of time. You were in pain for an extended period, and now it's like you're at 110% of the John I met. Like, you're killing it. Your band just had a great gig. Everything's going great. I'm just so happy that things have turned around for you. And am I right that this has ended up by now being a pretty good year?
It's been a definite, to use a sports cliche, it's been a game of two halves for sure. I mean, the first half of the year, it was tough. And then July onwards, I got my surgery in May. A couple of quite tough days after surgery, but really it was from kind of day 3-4 after surgery, it was all systems go. And it's been great, and I've really enjoyed kind of continuing to burst we joke in the band, it's like smashing your KPIs. I seem to be good at smashing my KPIs with regards to the hip, certainly. And it was actually at the point we played our gig on Friday night, and it was, yes, David, you rightly allude to, tremendous gig, really. Like, it was a wedding, it was a beautiful event, and we went on and just slayed. And that feeling as a musician when you just know you've just torn it apart.
Yep.
It was tremendous, and we all came off afterwards, and we were obviously all very excited and really, really happy. But every one of us was like, "Oh, bloody hell, I'm a bit sore after that." Oh, that like we put a lot of effort into it. And I woke up the next day and every bit of me was sore, apart from my metal hip.
Well, you finally fulfilled your dream of being a metal drummer.
Well, this is it. Yeah, I've used that a few times. But I'm bringing more metal to the party now.
By the way, your band, they're called Heist. I honestly think every gig you play, you should steal something. Just one thing. It can be little. If anyone notices, you can be like, "You saw the name when you hired us, right?" This
is suggesting that we don't. I can't possibly confirm or deny that that's already a thing.
No. This is all theoretical. We never talk real here.
We were quite disappointed this time round because we've got a mascot for the band. I actually have him here beside me. It's a little snow leopard. Now, I don't know how PC your podcast is, but
we're about to find out.
Well, I can give you his abbreviated name. He's known as TS, which stands for Turbo, and then possibly what we would call someone who is prolific in having sex. So this is Turbo Shagger, and he joins us regularly for every gig. But he did miss the wedding, and we were very disappointed about it, actually.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, he had a good night into himself. I'm pretty sure he invited his fellow snow leopards round.
Yeah, he probably needed some rest at that point.
Yeah, we also discovered after about 8 months of owning him that he actually roars. I'll just try to see if I don't know if this will come through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we discovered this. It was a very drunken night after a gig, and we were playing about, and we'd hired an Airbnb as a band, and we were just having a great time. And then someone pressed Turbo Shagger's belly, and he roared. And we were like, "Whoa!"
That's classic. Okay, well, I thought we'd do a little recap of the action that's been happening over the past, I guess, 5 or 6 months, really. I wanted to start with a competition I haven't really caught much of this year, if I'm honest. The Gallagher Premiership. John, are you keeping up with the Prem these days?
More than I have in previous seasons. Actually,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, this season I've quite enjoyed some of the product down south. It's been pretty good.
Well, I'm sure you've seen, Bath, obviously, our guy Finn Russell has been leading Bath to the top position in the league. Not too surprising considering their performance last year, but hold on to your hat. The team right below them, none other than the Bristol Bears somehow. This despite having only one real fly half on their roster who happens to be an aging American who tends to get injured a lot. John, are these truly the end times?
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, and that possibly says something about the way Bristol play, that they don't necessarily need a fly half. They're kind of, in my head, they're the equivalent of, like, they are total rugby. They are creating this new brand. Let's be honest, Bristol, they've signed some amazing players and they've got talent running through that side. The owners spent a fortune on it, and it's reaping rewards. I was reading earlier on that actually the crowds at the stadium this year are higher than ever before. They're getting people through the door. They're getting people over to watch rugby in a town that is traditionally dominated by football. They are starting to make an inroad, which is brilliant. And in some ways, in a very small, like, the mechanism for attraction is different, but I see similarities in the way Bristol and Glasgow play, and also the challenges they face. In that, Glasgow's a very football orientated town, soccer for your chaps. We are always competing with soccer over here, and I think Bristol have got the same. But the owners just backed them and went, let's spend money. And he's not had overnight success. He's not had instant success, which is almost reassuring, because he's went, do you know what? I'm just going to keep spending. I'm going to get it eventually. And that is quite reassuring, because I think he's in for the long haul.
It's a fun brand they're playing. It's an exciting team to watch. I think they just dropped 54 last weekend, was it?
Yeah.
Saracens and Leicester, they round out that top four, but Sale and Gloucester are sort of nipping at their heels, just one table point behind. There's plenty of time left. John, any of those teams kind of jump out at you to get into that top four?
I think, sadly, Saracens will be there or thereabouts. I think they're just a traditional game that works, you know. And I think that Whisper it, I think they've improved for not having Owen Farrell. It's almost like if you remove a roadblock from your team, they improve. Funny that. Can't imagine how that works.
I also think there's been a resurgence of Maro Itoje. I think he felt like his powers were diminishing for a while there, and now somehow they're back. Usually the haircut means your powers are about to leave you fully, but somehow it's gone the other way with him.
I think at club level in particular, I think he's looked really strong. I think Mauro's one of those players. I think he gets away with a lot at club level because referees are looking. We have. It's always the same in these leagues. You have referees who look out. You're refereeing in the URC. You're refereeing in the Premiership. You're refereeing in the top 14. You've got a directive of how you referee. And generally, you'll see that once they go to the international stage, you'll see that kind of they'll take that with them. But Itoje gets away with a lot more at club level than he does internationally.
Fair.
And I think his England career still. I think he's still. Yeah, I mean, he's one of their better players, but that's not a.
And he's the essence of the good soldier too. Like he will do whatever coach says as well. There was I think when Dirtbag Jones was still their coach, they had a game. I wish I could remember who it was against, but they were like, it was clear that Eddie had been like, okay, Morrow, every time there's a line out, you're just going to start screaming so that the other team can't hear their calls. Just do it. And he was like, okay. And he went out there and first line out, he's like, just making noise. The referee was like, you're not doing that. That stops right now.
Yeah, we're going to play a little game called "You Don't Do That," and we don't need to suffer that today. Yeah, he's a great. I think he's a great servant to. I think he's the sort of guy who's really committed to what he's doing. and really committed to the coaches that are helping him. I don't see him as necessarily being, I don't think he's a disruptor in terms of, like, if you were talking about a dressing room that maybe was looking for a character to lead a revolt. I don't think he's that. I think he is probably one of the more loyal players in modern rugby.
Yeah, it feels that way.
I also think he continues to, rightly or wrongly, get overrated in the press.
Fair. Well, adjacent to the Prem, of course, is the PWR competition that's really been gaining some momentum. Everyone on Earth knows by now that Alona Mar has signed with the Bears, though she hasn't actually suited up yet except for a photo shoot. Do you have a take on this whole business? It must have been impossible to escape entirely for you.
Oh, yeah, it was massive over here. Huge news, and I'll be honest, I am delighted about it. I'm delighted for both the platform it brings, but also the just the sheer ability that she has, the sheer rugby ability. In my head, I liken this a wee bit to the Lomu 95 kind of, Rupert Murdoch going, I want this man on my cameras.
Yeah,
I want this man. He is the future of this sport, and I think I can sell this. She has the potential to go to that league, and she is a superstar already, right? She's got the potential to go to that league and reach literally thousands of fans and say, here, this is quite a fun sport, come and be part of it. And she'll do that through brute strength, pace, ability. She's got it all. I think it could be a seminal moment in the PWR and women's rugby, like at a club level, women's rugby on the whole. I think it could be incredible.
Yeah, the more exposure, the better. You got to see it to be it. All those things, like it's just such a great
100%.
It's a great move for them. By the way, I kind of love that the two English leagues are almost like opposite of each other in some ways. Like, we've got the winless Exeter Chiefs, how funny is that, and the Prem, and then we have the Chiefs and the PWR leading the way. They've actually gotten ahead of Gloucester Hartbury. John, is it better for this competition if someone besides Gloucester win it this year?
I think it's always better. Like, so my mantra with all these things is the more uncertainty there is, the more competition there is, the better these leagues are, right? I would always want to see more people able to win than less. I don't necessarily think it doesn't detract, at the moment, it doesn't detract fully from the product, because I think the quality of what you're seeing week to week is incredible. And I love watching the women's fixtures because I just think the skill level involved, and you're still at that stage where we're not, there is players who use brute force, of course there is, but there's still a very skillful tactical game being played out, and that's the majority of it for me. And I think it's better for it, to be honest.
The big hits are there too, though. They
are.
Every match. There's at least one moment where you hear the thud, and then you get the ooh from the crowd when they just that to be there. It's amazing.
100%. Yeah, that I'm not in any way detracting from physicality or the ability of these girls to go and smash each other, but I think there's less impetus to run over someone and more on how do we get through using, kick, pass, using tactics. I think it's very exciting to watch. I think that's even borne out in the international game, maybe aside from England and New Zealand and France, perhaps. I think it is still the case that you've got people don't run over the top of each other, and anyone can beat anyone, which is very exciting.
Well, you and I have talked about tennis before, and it reminds me of that too, where it's like the men's and the women's game are just different. They have different styles. There's a different feel to it, and I just happen to like the women's game better. Like I'm very unlikely to watch men's tennis, but it's one of the things I love, especially on a weekend when you can watch PWR game and then a URC game, and it's just like you're seeing two different things, and it makes the whole thing richer.
Yeah, you're seeing two different things, but it's very much the same sport. And I think what we always have to come back to, we've got sport is such a rich, particularly rugby, it's such a rich place for all the different types of players and all the different types of physiques and abilities we have in it. We've always said rugby is better for that. So the fact that the women's game does feel quite different to the men's still, but that in a very good way. Like, I think that's a tremendous statement for the game, and I just wish that rugby could, I guess, embrace that and go, yeah, we're all rugby players. Like, it still feels like that's not a thing.
Yeah. It's time to get the thumb out, I think.
Oh, yeah. Is it?
By the way, I you can't tell, but I'm still laughing about my Christmas tradition is to win the 1872 Cup. I don't know why I didn't see that burn coming, but it's like a slow burn.
Well, we've all got to have our thing, I suppose. Sorry, I should say that's probably my New Year tradition, actually, because
yes.
I'll obviously do that next week. And then...
By the way, I do think for me it should be like the Bledisloe, when if it's one win each, it goes into a trophy case. Or they don't do this with the Bledisloe. I'm saying they should for both of these. I don't think it's, well, you didn't take it back, so we keep it. I think if it's 1-1, it should go into a case somewhere and everyone has to go look at it and nobody gets to bring it home.
Well, as a gentleman who was raised on the WWF Attitude Era of professional wrestling in North America, the idea of the disqualification and the title doesn't change hands, this upsets me greatly. So I totally agree. You know what? It has to come down. It has to change. If it's a, if it's a victory, change it over. If it's a draw, let's look at points difference. Let's look at mechanisms to make it change hands.
I even think you could make hay out of it where, it's in like a museum at a stadium or someplace where people can go see it. And it's like, oh, yeah, this year we can go look at it because nobody has it this year. And then you're automatically having a conversation about why Glasgow's going to get it next time or they aren't. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it could be a good fan experience kind of thing.
It just sounds like you want a certain band based in the west of Scotland to go and steal the 1872 Cup. That sounds like what you're setting us up for here.
I get the photos of you being arrested while drinking out of it. I can't wait.
Flinty McStag has got me by the throat as he's beating me down.
but would it be the real Flinty? I don't.
Absolutely not, no, because we don't know where the real Flinty is. He is still missing.
Well, the incredible top 14 is also in full flight. I think they're on, I have down here, round 142 out of 611, I'm pretty sure. My Border Beagles, they're currently on top, but only by virtue of win totals, because Toulouse have one fewer win but are tied with 41 points. John, are Toulouse, are they getting a double this year?
I think they will. I think what you've got here is a team that are, what you start to see with sides is just the ability to win, and it does become a habit. Like we always talk about, success breeds success. And I think Toulouse are benefiting from that so much. They're a team that are completely confident in what they do. They've got that almost Leinster quality of substituting in. You can go, I'm going to replace this international fullback with one of these three international fullbacks who are all worldies and would play for any other team in the world. But we've got the option of all four of them. It's an incredible side they've built. I do think Bordeaux I think they're doing really well. I loved watching Carberry in Europe.
Yeah.
I was loving watching Carberry, particularly it was getting pelters from the Irish fans.
Yeah.
And then nails the conversion, little cup of the ear, yes please.
It was brilliant.
That was tremendous. Yeah, all in for that. That was some sass from the boy. I particularly enjoyed that. But yeah, I can't see past Toulouse. I think Glasgow the other night playing against Toulon showed Toulon are a shadow of the side they once were. La Rochelle, teams like that seem to, they have great squads, but
they've got issues. They do seem to have turned it on in Europe, but
yeah, I'm
not sure what's up with them.
Struggling, aren't they? Yeah, and that's the thing. And you're even looking at, you've got kind of there's great sides in France, even classic sides like your Stades, teams like that just are not at the level they once were.
Yeah, Stade are a mess.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think by default, almost Toulouse will win, but it will be, they'll be great doing it and we'll enjoy it.
Metaphorically, Stade have spilled Capri Sun all over themselves. They're like, I'm all sticky.
Have you ever tried Capri Sun?
Oh yes, it was very popular as a kid here. I think I used to bring it to school, and of course, all you're doing is trying to break the outside with that stupid straw, and then it goes.
It's getting the angle. It's awful stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
I love that the coaches are required to have one in front of them. Every single coach, boom, boom, boom. Nobody ever reaches for one. No one's sipping on them. They're just like, okay, fine, I'll put it there.
Why? That's the thing. Why would they? It's terrible. I remember I think I would have been about 16, and I was at work and I came down with this awful cold, and it ended up being a flu. I was in bed for about 4 days, and the only craving I had during those 4 days was Capri Sun.
Wow.
It was a bizarre thing, and my mum went and got me like a big box of Capri Sun. And I just tore through them when I could open them, because obviously, as you say,
it's like a 30% success rate getting those things.
Yeah,
open.
I think I just started cutting off the tops with scissors and stuff like that. But yeah, what a weird drink.
It is.
So yeah, but yeah, I think long story short, Toulouse are worldy.
Well, those two teams are the only ones in the 40-point range on the table. Toulon, Bayonne, and Clermont. Oh, and La Rochelle. They're all teams in the 30-point range. After that, it's a bit of a CF. There's 6 teams in the 20s, but all within striking range. Like, John, does the number of rounds in the top 14 make it a more or less compelling competition for you?
I think it makes it interesting, because I think actually the level of competition through the league is really strong. I think again, it's back to that. Anyone within reason can beat anyone, and it introduces a level of tactics through the year, because like we see it, even the guys in France have to manage their squads and they have to manage their players. So you do see sometimes a weakened team going out and you go, okay, that's not the result I expected. So I think it is compelling. I think it's I
admit that this year I use it as an excuse to not tune in for the first several rounds. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to wait, see how the table evolves, and then I'll start paying attention. So, I don't know. By the way, down at the very, very bottom, it's Vaughan. It looks like they're headed right back down to the Pro D2. I think the top 14 is the only competition that I follow that actually still has promotion and relegation at this point. Do you miss that? Is that something that you want to see brought back to more competitions? The Premiership have just basically stopped talking about it, it seems like.
Yeah, they have. Right, okay. So, philosophically, I think promotion and relegation is absolutely the way these things should go, right? I think it's correct. It rewards, you essentially create levels that allows players to find their place, and it creates more competition in that space, and that's great. As a Scotland fan, I've had the spectre of Six Nations relegation held over me for, we're probably talking 20 years now, let's be fair. So, do I want it? Not really, right? I'm okay with it. And URC-wise, there's times in the URC when we think back, Glasgow finished like bottom a couple of seasons before they got to a semi-final. So it's that idea of, it does happen, and you do. I think people assume that because there's no relegation, people don't accept consequences. Guarantee you, teams that are finishing in that bottom half of the URC this year, there's consequences for that, and they're professionals. They don't want to be finishing 9th and 10th. They want to be finishing top 4 and winning it. And if they don't, they shouldn't be professional rugby players. Like that's the facts of it. So I think there is an element of, there's almost a natural kind of consequence to it, and I think it's okay. But I would prefer to see relegation and promotion in spaces where it's...
People here are always like, you don't need promotion and relegation. Look at the NFL. There's a lot of parity. There's it's a great competition. It's wide open with these 32 teams. But the thing that's got is a draft. And there's not going to ever be a URC draft, so it's there's
David,
a counteracting mechanism.
We should sit down and do a podcast one day just about competitive balance and the artificial mechanisms that are utilised to create competitive balance in sport. And
I'm sorry, what?
Honestly, we could talk for 2 hours about it, and I would be in my absolute element.
No, that actually sounds really good.
You're actually spot on. The draft system, the collegiate system in America creates a natural mechanism because you've got a centralized pool of talent that creates essentially a kind of natural balancing. And because you use the whole, you finish last, so you get the first pick. It's a perfect balancing system, and you see it across American sport.
Well, and as a fan, one of my favorite things about the top 14 is that extra relegation game. I'm blanking what they call it, but it's like that extra Jeopardy game where the loser of the Pro D2 final gets to play the second to last. And is there a game with more pressure on it than that? Like every single person on that field is crapping themselves when that game starts.
Well, that's it, yeah. And I think that's the thing we forget. Obviously, comparing it to the NFL and comparing it to these leagues that are so established. And I had a conversation on Sunday. So we sat and watched the Glasgow-Edinburgh game prior to the NFL Red Zone excitement that existed. And there was a conversation about how much these guys get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend asked me, so how much does a typical Glasgow player, how much do they earn? And I was like, well, probably on average, you're maybe seeing about 200, 300K, maybe slightly more for a top earner within that side.
Right.
And he went, what, per week?
And there's probably people on the team making 75, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Some of the younger lads will be 75, maybe even slightly less than that. Maybe, academy contracts will not be massive.
It is insane. And that's one of the things I wonder with Louis Rees-Zammit, where he's now making probably the same amount of money he would have made in a combination of playing for Gloucester and Wales over the course of a year. On the other hand, he's in complete obscurity, and that seems counter to what I thought was his personality. So it's a weird thing. But yeah, you can be on a practice squad making $300,000 here, and meanwhile, Finn, everyone's like, he makes $500. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's a weird situation. But I guess the point of that is when you think of these relegation games in Pro D2 and stuff like that, and the players are fighting for their livelihoods because if a team goes down, the sponsorship dries up, the money involved goes down. These players are fighting for their jobs, and I think we often forget the human element of that. It's incredibly powerful.
That's why there's so much eye gouging. No, just kidding.
Well,
gouge like you mean it, pal.
Well, send Stafford over to dish out some eye gouging, won't we? So
yeah, it was an accident.
It totally was. Anyway, yeah.
The next graphic I found just for you, I thought you might like this one. The competition that you and I think, follow most closely is, of course, the URC. Having a really fun season, of course, unless you're Dragons or Zebre. Which fan base do you feel worse for at this stage?
I think that's a tough one. I think Dragons.
At least the Dragons are staying.
Well, yeah. I think that's the thing. I think probably I feel worse for the Dragons at the moment because actually there's always an expectation in Wales. No matter how bad you are, there's an expectation that you're good. So, at least Zebre don't necessarily have that. They've accepted that they're a bit. They're second fiddle to Benetton.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of it's like other countries in the URC that have got two teams that have kind of said one are really good and the other are desperate. So we'll prioritise resources over to the good team and just forget about the other mob.
And we'll get them Jordy Barrett.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed watching Barrett actually. I thought it was really
Not saying he's not a
interesting.
good player. Not saying that.
Not at all. No, I think it was lovely to see how he actually seemed to. It reminded me a lot of, and it's a totally weird tangent, right? But it reminded me of my days when I went and played for other clubs that I wasn't part of, and you would turn up on a Saturday and you would literally be introducing yourself to the boys in the car park and be like, all right, cool. And they'd be like, what position do you play? Well, I'm generally X, Y, and Z, but, whatever you want me to play, I'll play wherever you need. I'm your guest today. And the way he was talking to the players on like his first couple of games, it reminded me a wee bit of that. Like, he was clearly just enjoying himself, and he's like, you can see him almost be like, yeah, I'm Jordy, by the way.
I'm fullback today? Okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm playing fullback. Cool. Yeah, cool. No worries, boys. What's the calls? Forget it. It's fine. I'll make them up. It's fine.
I gotta say, he was keenly aware of the cameras. The first start he goes in for a try, and he kind of doesn't quite get it down, but he started to try to do the fist bump, and then he realized, it's not down yet. He has to do an extra twist, gets it down. Take two.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I don't enjoy the financial doping that the Irish teams perform in terms of their rugby, but I do thoroughly enjoy seeing world-class players playing some rugby.
I love Jordy Barrett, but I have an irrational dislike of Leinster. I recognize that it's irrational, and I'm fine with that.
Welcome to my world. I don't like Leinster I don't dislike Leinster nearly as much as some of the other Irish provinces, to be honest. But I do dislike them with a very, very large part of my being.
Well, as we speak now, we're smack dab in the middle of the festive derbies. I don't think Craig and other Edinburgh fans were feeling too festive on Sunday. That was a bit of a shellacking. Not a good showing. Do you feel weird about the 14 points they kind of managed to get up there at the very end? The final score did not look like the game I watched.
No, I think, yeah. So I think, yeah, the final score didn't reflect the game. You're absolutely right? I think the 14 points they got, I think there's an element of taking.
Was that a good sign for Ben Healy? Is Ben Healy back? He was showing some
Healy
leadership out there.
He looked good. Yeah, I thought he looked great when he came on. But the problem you've got is, how many times have we said a player coming off the bench, looking decent compared to what he's, replacing? Like, you see it with scrum halves all the time. You're like, oh, he's so quick. It's like, no, he's not quick. It's just that every player has played 60 minutes now, so they're knackered.
Yeah.
And I think Healy looked good. I thought, I think Ben Healy's a very talented player. Like, I rate him quite highly. I just think that Edinburgh side, so 14 points flattered them excessively. And I think from a Glasgow perspective, it's great because Franco Smith will have went in the changing rooms and went, right, 71 minutes were great. The last 9 were terrible. And we'll focused on that. That's all those guys have been talking about this week.
It created workouts for him.
Yeah, and he'll have battered them this week for it. Like, defensively, they'll be wanting a shot. They'll be looking at it going, shut them out next week. Yeah. If they're half as bad as that next week, do not give them a point. But Edinburgh were rank. Like, they were terrible.
You're starting to see it in the body language too. The players look like when something bad goes wrong, they're like, you see it on their faces and their body language. It is not a good state.
And that's the thing. Like, it probably doesn't help that we're sitting here, because let's be honest, a lot of players will try to ignore commentary and try to ignore fans, pundits, whatever, right? But yeah, totally, yeah, I know, right? It's hard enough being a podcaster and you get commentary and you just go,
so difficult.
I'm not going to listen to that because I know that I'm brilliant. But these guys are human, and they will, especially the younger players, they'll look at stuff, they'll listen to stuff, and it's hard, but it does feel a wee bit like they've got such a. such a difficult situation. They've got a really talented team there that's just absolutely bereft of confidence and bereft of. Now, I'm going to say they don't have a game plan, but the problem they've got is they've got their 10s are very, very much in a specific style of rugby that then does not suit everything out with it. So if you if you play the Scotland back three, or Darcy and Duhan, and then you've got a kicking 10, you're not going to get the ball to them. They're not going to see it, so they're going to have to go looking for work. That becomes more problematic defensively, especially if you turn the ball over. The centres that Edinburgh are playing, we forget Mosesi Tuipulotu is, he's so inexperienced that the fact they're expecting him to come in and change a game for them is not realistic. And then best will in the world, I think Curry outside him is a good player, but he's a good club player at the moment. He's not, like, when you compare, like, look at Mosesi and Curry, and then you go Sione and Hugh Jones. That's a world of a difference in your centres.
It definitely felt like they were like, "Oh, we have a Tuipulotu too." Like that would solve everything. It was a weird attitude. The expectations were immediately, "Oh, we've got him too."
Yeah, and I don't think Mosesi played badly. Actually, I think he had a decent enough game, but I think it's a hard one because I think these players are having to learn a lot very quickly, and I don't think the Edinburgh leadership is very good. And I'm not talking about the coaching team there. Actually, I'm suggesting, I think the Edinburgh senior leadership at Edinburgh. I read an article earlier on the BBC from Sandy Smith saying, when was the last time you saw an Edinburgh captain just grab people by the jersey and go, "We'll sort this out"? And you don't get that.
Point.
You don't get that. There's no fire. There's no passion. There's no. They don't seem to be fighting for the jersey. So
yeah, that's a great point.
It's sad to see.
Well, out of the festive derbies, there were 3 gut punch games this weekend, with Ulster, Zebre, and Scarlets all getting pipped right at the death. So I don't know why we keep bringing up the NFL, but the famous NFL coach Bill Parcells, he once said, "You are who your record says you are." And while on one hand that's got to be in the top 5 coaching tautologies of all time, I still find it compelling. Like, what do you think about that? Does a team like Ulster let a game slip away at the very end because that's the team they are? Is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory the essence of who these teams are right now?
So I think it ultimately all comes back to the previous statement I made about confidence. I think these teams are like at elite level sport. Like, generally there's teams that are better than others, right? We know that, but ultimately there is a group of teams around that kind of 4th to 11th, 10th, 11th that are relatively equal. Could beat each other on any given day. The difference is mentality. The difference is confidence. The difference is belief. And ultimately, one of the things we always talk about in kind of sports psychology is that a team doesn't necessarily, a coach doesn't necessarily have as big an impact on a team as you believe they do.
Right.
Like a great coach will have a great impact, right? We know that, right? But for the most part, a coach will not have the impact they believe they will have. A team will find its level and will naturally be at that level. Now, a coach can have a massively negative impact if they lose a dressing room and create a mentality in that dressing room that they're upset because they think they're not getting what they deserve or anything like that. But a coach will not necessarily be able to shift. An average team will not become a good team because of a good coach. Generally that's how it works. So most of these teams are at their level, and I do agree with the statement. I think they find their level, and you lose games and you win games, and it will balance out through the season, those things. But mentality, if you create a bit of momentum, all of a sudden you become a high-performing team that are out with of your ability. Like, I think Glasgow last season were a team that they are so much better than the sum of their parts. They're a much better side, and it's mentality, and it's I think Franco Smith creates a confidence in them.
Yeah.
That they now believe they're a brilliant side. You know, you look at the players, a lot of the players on that side are not necessarily top names, but they believe they are brilliant players, and that's because of the confidence they've gained from winning games. And that's what it takes. You have to win games.
Me and Craig have been both sort of calling for heads to roll at the coaching level at Edinburgh. But if you were in charge and you were a betting man, you're saying you think the problem might be better solved with a player changing rather than a coach?
Yeah. I think ultimately, I don't think Sean Everett's the right man for the job. I never did. I thought that was a terrible appointment at the start. Well, anyway,
they did the thing where they're like, okay, you're the interim, and then a while later they're like, okay, you can stay, which is just not a ringing endorsement. I don't feel like that builds confidence.
No, and there it is. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. You need to build confidence in the players. You need to build the idea that you're creating something. Like Franco was given a remit to say, I'm going to back myself to bring in players who have been on the outskirts of the Glasgow team. I'm going to create this environment that they feel confident to go and play. And you've got players, George Horn, Stafford McDowell in particular, flourishing. Kyle Staines now been talked about as a Six Nations starter. And he was nowhere under Danny Wilson. You know, he was a decent 13, sorry. He was playing 13 under Danny Wilson. So I think, and I've seen this a couple of times online, and I have to agree with it. I think we're too far down the track now. We've had too many coaches have too many failures with this Edinburgh side to say it's a coaching issue. It can't be a coaching issue. This is the same team that Cockerell had playing, knockout rugby. They were in knockout stages of Europandy URC or Pro 16 or whatever it was at the time. And yeah, they bottled that, but they were there. And that team then revolted against his methods. And I think that's fairly typical of Richard Cockerell. But you've got a side that, people keep talking. Edinburgh fans, I've seen a lot of this recently, and it does bother me a wee bit. Like, they're talking about, how are we so bad? We were really good a couple of seasons ago. It's like, you finished 8th. You weren't really good. Like, there's a wee bit of a reality check here that even under Mike Blair, it wasn't that good. No. It was better than what you had, and you were playing nicer stuff, and you beat us. So you thought, we're doing brilliant, but we were horse under Danny Wilson. So I do think there's, like, player-wise, there needs to be a bit of a clear out there. They've got some cracking young players coming through. That's the thing. Edinburgh have got talent, and Glasgow always seem to benefit from it because their young boys come through, don't get a game, and then go, all right, well, I'll go to Glasgow for a season, and then it's like, so you're Rory Darge. Okay, yeah, you're quite good. Right, all right, cool. Or you're George Turner. You Cockerell told you weren't good enough. Now you're starting Scotland hooker. Okay, that's fine.
Craig's also made the point about the value of players going somewhere else and getting a complete change of scenery, complete change. I mean, whenever these players run into Blair Kinghorn, they just must be like, damn it.
Well, that's the thing. I hope they are. I hope they do, because that is the right mentality. I think so many of the Scottish players, and I think Blair Kinghorn's been I think Finn Russell was the one that kind of was the original go elsewhere and show that you can be better than you are. Like, he didn't choose we always think about, like, Chris Patterson and Greg Laidlaw and guys like that who went south and went to Gloucester or, and went, a mid to high tier English team, and went there and kind of didn't always start, but kind of made a decent stab of it. In Patterson's case, only a season, came back up north. Laidlaw went on to then go to France. He made a career of it. Russell went to one of the top club sides in European rugby at the time, who, let's not forget, had Dan Carter on the books when he signed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's funny to think about.
And he went there and went, it's all right, guys. I'm going to be a starting 10. Nobody expected him to be the starting 10 when he went over there.
Yeah.
And he took the jersey and just went, yeah, it's fine, boys. We got this. And ran with it. Like, there's a confidence that comes with that I don't think many Scottish players have. Kinghorn has done that. He's also went to Toulouse and went, everyone thought he was going there to be a bench warmer.
Yeah.
And he's went there and went, 15? Yeah, please, Thomas Ramos. Never heard of him, mate.
Exactly. And then that final, like, Ange Kapawatso is sitting on the bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah. And he's tearing it up for them. That is the difference. And I think there's either an element of, in Scotland, we have this thing where we talk about players and we talk about them in kind of reverent terms that don't necessarily meet the level that they're actually at. But there's also an argument that a lot of players are just scared to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you look at, and I'm going to call out a couple of Edinburgh players, I'll call out a couple of Glasgow players as well, actually. I think guys like Hamish Watson, the fact he's never went abroad. Grant Gilchrist was contracted to go to Toulon, had an injury, and then never went, and has been at Edinburgh ever since. Whisper it, actually, I think it's a delightful situation he's staying, but someone like Xander Fagerson might come into that category as well. Someone who doesn't go into, and I think Xander's a tremendous player, but he has signed again for Glasgow, and yeah, he's still got time, but I hope he goes abroad at some point and just finds something a wee bit different, because these players, they just, like, I always look at a player who wants to stay in their comfortable environment is not a motivated player.
If Xander goes somewhere, I hope he takes his brother with him. I feel like the two of them, their powers exceed when they're together. It's almost always the case with these brother combos. So for the rest of the way, for the festive derbies at least, which matchup are you most looking forward to? It feels like the second half of the 1872 might not be particularly compelling. Is there a different matchup that you're looking forward to that you're like, ooh, this one's going to be juicy?
I think the second half of the 1872 might actually be better than we think, and I think it's always that bounce back. Like, I think a lot of people
said that about this weekend, though. They were like, "Oh, Edinburgh, last couple of weeks, they've looked like they've shown something. Maybe this is going to be a contest," and then they got stomped.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think at home, and let's not do the whole, they're not at the Hive nonsense, because they're at home, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think they'll be better than they were, and I think it'll be more of a contest this weekend. I also think Glasgow have got an opportunity to rest some players, to be honest. It's a long season.
Good point.
We could, but I think that's the difference in mentality. Edinburgh will be seeing this as, we need to win a game to win the 1872. Glasgow will be looking at this as a league game.
Were you tempted to go? What was the name of the place? Was it Hampden Park? Were you tempted to go?
I was tempted, yeah. I was tempted. I'd kind of foo-fooed it a wee bit initially because they changed the date last minute.
Right, I heard.
Which was kind of like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I was tempted.
The crowd was great. The sound, it was a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, the feedback I've had is a lot of people there, the feeling in the stadium wasn't that good, because it's actually quite distant from the stadium, from the pitch. Sorry.
Yep, I did notice that,
because it's got the running track,
especially on the long ends. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, like, I think it's a good experiment. I think we want to try these things. So I was tempted to go along, but I was also running on about 3 hours sleep for the weekend at that point. So I was like, maybe not.
Well, John, my friend, as always, this is an absolute hoot. I wanted to finish us off on a little game I'm calling the 12 Players of Christmas, where we just sort of take turns picking players who we're looking forward to seeing in the coming year, in 2025. So we're not going to do 12 each. That would be insane. We'd be here for another 6 hours. But we will do 6 each. Then I'll let you get back to your family and festivities. Sound okay to you?
Sounds like a plan, pal.
Well, just to sort of grease the wheels and to ensure that you get the final pick, I will go ahead and start us off. My player in a pear tree, I'm going to start off with Louis Biawe, Lou Bebe, I call him. He's already one of the most exciting players I can think of, and he actually seems like he's getting better and better, which I didn't really anticipate, and more durable than I thought he was going to be with his build and everything. If Bordeaux are going to have any chance at all at a championship, they're going to need him. He's going to need to be on. John, who's your first pick? Who's a player you can't wait to see in 2025?
Well, let's start on theme, shall we? Start on brand, but not quite. I think 2025 is the year of Darcy Graham.
Ooh.
I think Darcy Graham is going to he's had a couple of years. Last year was very injury interrupted, but Darcy Graham has the potential to be everything Scotland need him to be and more. And if he's one of those players that if he was to choose to go abroad, he would have the pick of the teams.
Yeah.
And he would improve immeasurably as a player. But I cannot wait to see Darcy Graham.
The injury bug, that's the the X factor. Like if he was as healthy as Duhan is, there would be no contest who was going to have that record. But
Well, that's it. Yeah, it'd be miles ahead, wouldn't it?
Okay, my second pick, I'm going to go with Kini Naholo. He's actually Waisaki Naholo's little brother. He's been tearing it up in the NPC. I expect him to be featured prominently in Super Rugby this coming season, which, by the way, starts on Valentine's Day. Not that far off. Who do you have for your second pick?
I mean, there's some we're just looking at kind of Six Nations players here. There's some class players out there. The obvious shout is Antoine Dupont. However, I am really interested to see Roman Ntamack back.
Okay.
From a fitness perspective, again, another player who's had a hell of a time with injuries.
Yeah.
Over the last wee while. And he might not be the same player he was, but by goodness, he was some player prior to those injuries.
His absence didn't just affect France; it affected the entire World Cup. I felt you felt his absence.
Yeah, 100%, and that's the thing. Like Ntamack is, I think people often forget as well that Ntamack was the 12 when in that under 20s team. He was the 12. Jalabert was the 10. But Ntamack played 10. He was the one who progressed quickly. He had the relationship with Dupont at club level.
Yeah.
So he is developed into a world-class 10 that is exciting, a bit weird at times. He's a very French 10, and I'm all in for that.
Speaking of brothers, he's got, I think it's Teo also playing too.
Yep.
Not the most similar player, but which reminds me, just to pause here because I've asked a bunch of people this: which Barrett brother would you most want to be?
Right. Okay. So I think there's a hierarchy of Barrett brothers, right? So I've actually discussed this at length with a Kiwi fairly recently. Big Cat's big cousin Caleb was over, and he's as Kiwi as they come, big Maori boy. So I chatted through this with him, and we both decided that Scott get kept in the basement, and kind of got let out, get taken for walks around the yard, and got let out only on game day. Geordie, I think Geordie has an air of the second child about him. You know, he's a great player. He's also got a physical gift.
Yeah.
But I would love to be Bodie. Like, that amount of pace, that amount of talent, yes, please.
2 World Player of the Year awards, not too bad.
Yeah, a position you don't even play in anymore.
I actually landed on Scott just because I've never walked into a room and been the hulking person who kind of looks down at people, and I figured that might be kind of fun.
I'm pretty sure Scott's not allowed to walk into rooms, though.
Get back in that attic.
Scott! What have I told you? Get back in the attic. Scott Bird.
So my third pick, I'm going to go over to the women's game. I'm going to take Alev Kelter. She's now playing for my Loughborough Lightning. She's always already having a huge impact. I just love her. I love everything she brings to the game. I think she could be a big difference maker for that team who struggled last year. I think she might help Loughborough a lot in 2025. Who's going to be your halfway pick?
You know, it's a tough one again. Like, I think there's a lot of very talented back row players out there. I think thinking about Wales in particular, like which will surprise people. They've got a couple of really good talented players out there that are much better than the nonsense that Wales are facing at the moment.
So I'll just put you down for Lewis Rees-Zammit. Okay, got it.
LR's edge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Jack Morgan is going to have a huge season next year. One. Beyond, I think he's going to be one of these players that when we look back in the annals of history a few years from now, we're going to look back at Morgan and go, he was a very talented player who played at the wrong time. Because if he was in a Grand Slam winning Wales team, he would be lauded as one of the best players in the world. But he's not. And because of that, he is going to go down as an average journeyman. But I think he's got a big season ahead of him next year.
That's a great shout. My heart is always breaking for Rio Dyer, who's just like...
Oh, what a player. Yeah, what a player.
So for my fourth pick, I'm coming all the way back home. I'm taking the one and only Jason Patra as the field marshal for my beloved Free Jacks, a guy who won 2 titles inside a calendar year. By the way, I can't wait to see him back in action come March when we start getting our traditional opening day blizzards. John, what about you? Who do you got next?
Well, I think it's obviously next year's a Lions year, and starting thinking about the legally mandated Lions chat. And
I don't know if I've told you, I've literally in the last couple months, I've woken up with that song in my head more than once.
Yeah, Cammy's got a lot to answer for. Yeah, I mean, it's a Lions year. And I think if you think about the positions that are up for grabs in the Lions, right, I think no position is more competitive than scrum half. And there's rumours, people are saying Gibson Park. People are suggesting, even whispering that you might see some of the Welsh scrum halves go. But I think it's a massive year for Ben White. Ben White. And I'm saying that because I don't think George Horne is going to get the international recognition he deserves. But I think Ben White, if Ben White can stay in the Scotland 9 shirt, Ben White has every chance of starting for the Lions.
Well, remember that when Hamish got picked for the last Lions tour, there was all the, he's not big enough. He's not big enough for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be recycle on that story if George Horne got picked, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. It'd be, oh, yeah, who's this guy? Yeah, his basics are not good enough. He's too short. He's this, he's that. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no.
But, no. I mean, you and I watched him this weekend. He almost just took somebody out with a roundhouse. That guy was holding onto his leg.
He was inches away from like a 12-week ban, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was not a happy boy with that.
I've never seen him like that either. It was funny. He went from, we're playing, I'm going to kill you. Oh, wait, we're playing again.
He can be quite aggressive. He's some boy.
So for my penultimate pick, I'm going to shock you because I'm going with a player from England. I know.
Ooh, okay. That's all right.
Seems weird, right? I'm going to take Chandler Cunningham South. He's
yeah,
been
good
an
shout.
absolute monster for them and has looked damn good doing it. Like, I have to make sure my partner isn't in the room if I'm watching an England game, because if she ever spots him, boom, she's going to move to London that day.
Yeah, he's a handsome boy, isn't he? But my goodness, he looks great in that back row.
It seems like he came out of nowhere. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's this new guy. Oh, look, he's making every play when it matters at the end of the game.
Yeah, aye, very talented player. Very
Okay.
talented player.
Good sir, who is your fifth selection for our little game?
So I'm going to move over to the women's game now, and I'm going to call
Emma
out
Orr.
Emma Orr is a tremendous rugby player, and I have a lot of respect for her. However, she did upset me last year by playing for Edinburgh as a pure ringer. So I'm going to go for Rona Lloyd. I think
There she is.
Yeah,
Yes.
Rona gets the shout this year. I think she continues to be one of the biggest stars in Scotland women's rugby.
Definitely.
And tremendous player.
How old is she? Is she 32? Is she that?
She is. She is 28.
Oh, geez. Wow. Okay.
So a few
Oh,
years yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's great news.
Yeah.
Okay, my final pick. I did want to come back to the URC. It's the competition I pay most attention to. I'm going to go to Connacht because they're the team I support in the URC. There's a guy who played for my Highlanders down in Super Rugby and then came to Connacht, came up here to the stormy weather of Galway. I love him. I'm talking, of course, about Josh Ioane. He got a single cap for the All Blacks back in 2019. If 2025 isn't the year he gets another one, I don't know if it's going to come. So I'm rooting for him, and I'm hoping this is the year of Josh Ioane.
Yeah, well, if he's playing outside of New Zealand, he's not going to get near a cap. So that's the joy of it. That's the way they rule. So,
I just told you I root for Connacht, so obviously I have ridiculous hopes.
Well, clearly, yeah. That's unexpected.
Okay, who's your final selection for our festive little game here?
Yeah, it wouldn't be acceptable to go through something like this without picking the next guy. 2025 has the potential to be the year. I think Finn Russell's already silenced so many doubters, right? But I think 2025 is the year Finn Russell leads the Lions to a Test series win against a very underpowered Australia. Let's be honest, I don't think Australia are nearly as good as England or Wales made them look, and Scotland then henceforth proved that. But I think Finn Russell will cement his legacy as one of the world-class 10s and finally get the respect he deserves.
It's a great shout. And it's funny because I felt like I was one of the people who never believed the doubters. Like, I was always, I was anti-Toonsy for making him the fifth choice fly half. But somehow, when he went from Racing to Bath, I was like, is this a good move? Like, Bath are terrible. And, like, one guy can't turn around and then, presto, there's the championship.
Yep. He's done well. So, I think it's got a lot for him this coming year.
Do you have a secret hope that he's going to come back to one of the Scottish clubs at some point, or is that never happening?
I think there's too much water. There's too much to cross in terms of the SRU and Finn Russell and Finn Russell's family. I don't think Finn would want to be an SRU employee again.
Is the money different? I know in France it's different, but in England, like, these Premiership sides are all broke. So, like, he can't. Well, though they announced he was making what, like 900,000?
Yeah, Finn's on a lot more money than he would be in Scotland. Yeah, he's on about two times, maybe slightly more what he would make.
I don't know how these Premiership clubs are doing that when they're like, oh, by the way, we might file for bankruptcy.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's £1 million.
It's not. Exactly. It's not right, is it? But that's the reality of it.
Maybe they've still got Nigel Ray in the background there. So don't worry. See that coffee shop? It's yours.
I'll give you a company. I'll give you a house. I'll give you a company in a house.
Well, John, my friend, thank you for taking some time out of your lovely Christmas holiday to join us here. I don't know why. I felt like this was a cool idea. Just give everyone who gets no rugby on a day like this, give them a little something.
I like it. Yeah. It's been lovely to talk about rugby on a day like this. So it's been nice.
So what's coming up for you? What's coming up for the pod? When can we hear the first actual full version of the legally mandated Lions chat?
I think that'll be coming in January. Actually, I think it's
Okay.
it's probably time we start those kickoffs. Yeah, I think we're looking. With obviously a couple of new contributors come in.
I was going to say, what do you think about
great.
the new guys?
The
Been
new
a
guys
couple
have
weeks
done
in a
great. Yeah, proper. Been really impressed with the boys on debut. So it's been great, and yeah, we're going to try to continue that. Get like a decent squad of people together that we can, get a wee bit of variety in the pod, because you don't always want to see the same four baldy guys chatting up, but. Let's see. Exciting times for the pod, and
I'm enjoying the new guys. If you, oh, jeez, I just now saw your message. My mic has been popping. Has it been doing the whole time?
It actually stopped not long after I
Oh,
popped it.
phew. Okay. Actually, I think I actually might have known what happened. Anyway, the new guys, I've been enjoying it. One of them doesn't quite know how to silence his phone, so the next time they're on, compulsively text both of them, and we can try to figure out whose it is.
Figure out who it is. Yeah, that's a good shout. Good feedback. I like that.
John, my friend, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your New Year. So great to talk to you as always. I'm glad this year went from crummy to, top of the heap. You deserve it, and I'm just so happy to be your friend and see you in such great spirits.
Thanks, buddy. Same back to you, and same to all your listeners. Enjoy your festive period, guys, and I hope 2025 is a banger for you.
John, my friend, cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, Nate.
You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?